Hi everyone, and welcome to week 4 of our midweek Lent devotions. And happy St. Patrick's Day, because it is Wednesday, St. Patrick's Day, that we are filming this, so I hope you're wearing your green. This week we're going to be talking about community with Christ, of people, between community and people that are on the margins. This topic, I think, is a good topic for us to look at, because it's one that sort of has been close to me through the way that we were raised, what my parents did for a living, and through even what I chose to continue to do through college, teaching people how to speak English so that they can, and building a community with Spanish speakers in a city, and learning the ways about people who we consider on the margins, but really they're people just like us. So our text today comes from Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 20, and this is a healing text about Jesus casting out evil spirits. They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gerasenes, and when he had stepped out of the boat, immediately a man out of the tombs with an unclean spirit met him. He lived among the tombs, and no one could restrain him any more, even with a chain, for he had often been restrained with shackles and chains, but the chains he wrenched apart, and the shackles he broke into pieces, and no one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always howling and bruising himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and bowed down before him, and he shouted at the top of his voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." For he had said to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." He begged him earnestly not to send him out of the country. Now there on the hillside a great herd of swine was feeding, and the unclean spirits begged him, "Send us into the swine and let us enter them." So he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the swine, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and were drowned in the sea. The swineherds ran off and told in the city and in the country. Then people came to see what it was that had happened. They came to see Jesus and saw the demoniac sitting there, clothed in his right mind, the very man who had the legion that they were afraid of. Those who had seen what had happened to the demoniac and to the swine reported it. Then they began to beg Jesus to leave their neighborhood. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed by demons begged him that he might be with him. But Jesus refused and said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and what mercy he has shown you." And he went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone was amazed. We don't always see, and we don't always understand people who aren't like us. Whether that's people who are a different race than us, people who have different lives than us, maybe even people who have different abilities and different sort of ways that they go about things. And sometimes we tend to overlook them. Maybe if we overlook a houseless person, or we overlook people who we would consider on the margins and maybe not even worth our time. And that is simply not the way that Jesus would have us think about community and about people. Jesus sees this man who is living among the tombs and who has chains still stuck to his hands and his feet because of how many times he broke them and ran away from his community because they were afraid of him. And Jesus figuratively broke his chains from the spirits that bound him. But Jesus also broke his chains of being on the margins. And it also shows you that Jesus is a person in this text that is living on the margins. Because Jesus, after healing this man, was told to leave the area. He was told just to get out. because and that is something that we have to take note of, that Jesus is with the people who we don't think are like us, people who we think live on the margins. Our sort of goal for today, for this midweek devotion, is to remember that those who are on the margins, those who are not like us, those who we would really rather not talk to, or those who might make us uncomfortable in like a difference kind of way, not in a creepy kind of way, but those people who we don't often associate ourselves with because we may be seen as lesser, are people who are also loved by God, people who are part of God's body of Christ and who are God's children. And that is sort of our important takeaway from today, that those people who are on the margins, whether they are houseless people or people who are different from us or people who are abled differently, are loved by God exactly how they are as well. So when you're praying today, I encourage you to think about that and to pray for those who are on the margins, people who we don't always see in society, and people who have and also need us to show God's love to them as well. Have a good week, and I'll see you next week for our midweek devotions.